Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's the Dean of Fantasy Football back here on the Blitz Sports Media channel. And today we are talking about tight ends. We are doing my tier ranking for this upcoming 2025 season. If you didn't check out my last video where I did on the quarterbacks, be sure to go check that out on Blitz Sports Media YouTube channel. It was real fun, and I'm looking to have some good fun today as we talk about tight ends. So, hey, let's dive right into it as we head to the very top of this tight end class. Start things off, we have the elite, and it's these three guys that are on top of the tight end world currently. You have the tight end one from last year and the tight end one from the previous year. Two guys who broke out their rookie seasons and became fantasy demons, and they stay there in both Brock Bowers and Sam Laporta, accompanied by Trey McBride. Now, listen, these guys are going to get the volume. First, let's look at Sam Laporta, who's on a high-powered offense, a Super Bowl contender in the Detroit Lions. He is 1A in number one targets on that team, right next to Amon-Ra St. Brown. He is going to get that volume. He's going to be the biggest target in the red zone. So expect Sam Laporta to jump back up to that, like right here, that top three in tight ends. I know he's finished as tight end 7 last year. A lot of people expect a little bit higher, but still top 10 back-to-back years is very good. Sam Laporta is in the elite. And then you look at McBride and Bowers. They're kind of in somewhat of a similar situation where they're arguably their team's number one target. Now, I know McBride has Marvin Harrison Jr., but Marvin Harrison and Kyler Murray didn't really sync up well last year. Now, I have high hopes for Marvin Harrison Jr. in his sophomore season, but I don't think it's going to be any effect on McBride. Now, McBride finished as tight end 2 last year, and the whole thing during his season was he wasn't getting touchdowns. If you added 4, 5, maybe 6 touchdowns to his resume, man, where would he finish? He could, maybe not beat Bowers, but like he would just even have that much of a better season in fantasy. And for Bowers, the Raiders, all they did was get a new quarterback that can actually throw. They got a running back, and they didn't do much else in the receiving category. They have Jacoby Myers. They drafted Jack Beck, but that's it. Bowers is the number one target on this roster. Now, teams may now come into the season and focus that on him, but he is so talented and such a physical specimen that Brock Bowers could easily go back-to-back years as your tight end 1. Next, let's go all the way down to the bottom. These are the guys you got to stay away from by any means necessary. First off, we got Javon Sanders of the Carolina Panthers. Now, the Panthers, I am very optimistic about, but I just don't see Bryce Young feeding the tight end room. They went ahead and got Ted McMillan in the draft. That's his new number one target. That receiving room is really shaping out to be a nice feature for the Panthers. And then you have Chuba Hubbard in the backfield, where I think this is where the whole offense is going to run through. I just would stay away from Sanders. Then you have Juwan Johnson for the Saints. Now, the Saints are going to be quite a headache. The quarterback is still up in the air, and there's some other talented guys on this team. Now, I'm not telling you to stay away from all Saints players because I still think Kamara can have a phenomenal year. Chris Olave is still the number one target. But Juwan Johnson just doesn't do it for me, especially if we're talking about fantasy tight ends. It just does not seem worth taking a draft flyer on Juwan Johnson. Maybe a stream down the line, but nothing too much. Next, we got Noah Fant. We really haven't heard a lot from Noah Fant in past years. We thought maybe this trade from the Broncos to the Seahawks was going to work out, but Noah Fant just isn't being an effective fantasy tight end these previous years, so he falls into that stay away category. And then we have Theo Johnson. The Giants are kind of confusing in the tight end position. I had high hopes when Darren Waller came to the Giants. I had high hopes when Danny Bellinger was starting to mix into it with Daniel Jones. And then they drafted Theo Johnson last year, and people were starting to get excited. But maybe that's just that New York media. They just get excited about anyone and anywhere. But for Theo Johnson, it just not has worked out. And it doesn't seem like there's much optimism heading into 2025 for him. So this is more of a guy like you want to wait and see. I think the Giants are going to exceed a lot of expectations this year, but I don't think it's going to go through Theo Johnson. Next category, we're going to go back to the top. These are the very good, right? Missing the elite. And honestly, there's probably a lot of you out there watching right now that would argue some of these guys are elite, but for my exercise, they're in the very good category. And as you can see here, it's George Kittle, Jonnu Smith, and TJ Hockenson. Hockenson had the injury last year to start the season, coming back. I think he is a vital weapon. He's been one of my favorite tight ends in fantasy for the recent years. A guy that I used to be able to grab pretty late in drafts, but now he's established himself as a fantasy dominant tight end. Now, the Vikings are heading into the season with projected JJ McCarthy as their QB1, right? Now, what I love about tight ends, they're a great security blanket for a inexperienced rookie quarterback. And that's what JJ McCarthy is. Now, there's other great weapons on this Vikings team, and I think they are an offense that can explode for multiple players, including Hockenson. So Hockenson in the very good category. Wouldn't be surprised if he finishes top 5 or even if he cracks into the top 3. Next, Jonnu Smith. As of recording right now, this is June 4th as I'm recording this, Jonnu Smith could potentially be traded to Pittsburgh, which would throw this whole thing in the wrench. But as of right now, I'm going to still assume he's on the Dolphins. Jonnu Smith finished as tight end 4 last year. No one saw this coming. We kind of saw the skill set in his time in New England, but he got an opportunity to provide offensive spark for the Dolphins where you didn't think it was going to come from him, right? You have Devon Achane, you have Jalen Waddle, you have Tyreek Hill, right? But Jonnu Smith was kind of their best player last year, and it was really nice to see. And I think it's just going to continue. Same system, same quarterback. I think Jonnu Smith can still be a top 5 tight end this year. And lastly, we have George Kittle. George Kittle is probably the most complete tight end in the NFL, but what does that really do for fantasy, right? Like if you can block, that's not going to help you on your fantasy rosters, but George Kittle is just so elite at the tight end position that he finished as tight end 3 last year. And on a offense that was pretty disappointing with the 49ers, he was the absolute bright spot. And now we have Deebo Samuel departing from San Fran. I think there's a lot of guys that are going to step up, but that's kind of a wait and see. Christian McCaffrey's coming back healthy, and I think it's going to be a two-headed monster for the 49ers. You're going to have McCaffrey, and you're going to have Kittle as the primary option. So George Kittle still in that very good last year, phenomenal season, but in past we've seen seasons where he is either hurt on and off of the weeks, or he may disappear from time to time. But still, George Kittle has the ability. He's going to be on a great team that is going to rebound from last year. So George Kittle is the final very good on the tight end tier making. Next up, these are some breakout candidates that I have for this year, and it may get a little strange if we look at them. As starting off is from Green Bay is Tucker Kraft. I think this guy really kind of broke out last season, you can possibly say. I think a lot of people didn't see Kraft coming onto the scene, but really did a phenomenal job. Ended the season as tight end 10. Which was incredible. And I want to see a full season of Kraft as the number 1 tight end option on that Packers team. Listen, Jordan Love is talented. That wide receiver room is still full of pretty good talent, right? There's no elite number 1. I guess they're hoping for Matthew Golden to be that elite number 1. But Kraft is going to step in this season as the number 1 option at the tight end position. So I could see, him again being a top 10 tight end this coming year. Next is a bit of a curveball. I have Brenton Strange. He finished last year as tight end 31. And I know that's not great, but it was something that we saw a top 5 finish from him last year. Towards the end of the season, he looked really well. Trevor Lawrence wasn't healthy I think he's going to have a nice bounce back. You have this system with Liam Cohen coming over now as their new head coach. I think Brenton Strange is there's a very possible way where Brenton Strange breaks into that like top 12 of tight ends, which would make him a starting tight end week in and week out on majority of teams, right? Evan Ingram is no longer there, so there is a clear opportunity for Brenton Strange to have a fantastic 2025. And last but not least, it's Dalton Connect. He is a guy that we were hoping for. It's kind of we were thinking that he would have seasons like Bowers and Laporta in his rookie year, but things just haven't seemed that they've worked out. I'm still not going to give up on this guy. I think his breakout is coming. He's still on such a good team with one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. There is the opportunity where Dalton Connect has a top performance for this season. I want to say top 10, but the possibility is he could be a top 5 tight end at any time. And I think this could be the year where he does it. The Bills, like I said, are Super Bowl contenders. The wide receiver room isn't anything too crazy that would take away from him. I just think that if there's ever a time to break out, this is the year for Dalton. Next up, this group is just the rookies, plain and simple. This tight end class is pretty sweet. I'm quite excited for them and the spots that they landed. And I picked 4 to look at, so let's dive into them. First off, let's start on the right side of this group. These are the first round selections. First, we have Tyler Warren, who people thought was going to go first off the board. He did not. He's on the Colts this year, and look at the Colts team, not great. Really isn't, and he could be now the number 1 target for this team. I know these still have Pittman, Josh Downs, but the quarterback play has been subpar. You have Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones. I think there could be a lot of reliability on Tyler Warren over the middle for the Colts team. So he's going to get a bunch of opportunities. And then below him is the guy that went 10th overall to the Chicago Bears. That's Colston Loveland. This was a shock. A lot of people weren't sure where they would go, the Bears, in the draft, but they went with Loveland, and it spoke volumes. Now he gets into this offensive system coached by Ben Johnson that has such high expectations with former first overall pick Caleb Williams. I know it may seem like a crowded field or offensive system, but I think Loveland has the opportunity to get a ton of volume, score a ton of points. So I like Loveland to possibly be challenging for a tight end 1 rookie season again. We saw it the past 2 years with Bowers and Laporta. I think either Warren or Loveland have that opportunity. Now to flip on to the other side, we'll start at the top. This is Mason Taylor. He is the projected tight end 1 for the Jets. Now listen, I know a lot of people don't like to take any Jets player in fantasy, but this is the time to take a tight end from this team because of what they have under center. Justin Fields makes tight ends better. We saw with Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet got a contract just because of the level of play he had with that full season with Justin Fields. Mason Taylor can be the same type of tight end and producer of fantasy points for the Jets with Justin Fields. Now, listen, that may hurt Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall's production, but listen, I'm talking about tight ends, and I think Mason Taylor has an opportunity to have a great rookie year. And then we have Terrence Ferguson here on the bottom to round things off. I think Terrence Ferguson may be a steal of fantasy this upcoming year. The opportunity that he has in front of him to be on such a good offense with a Hall of Fame quarterback, probably a Hall of Fame coach in Sean McVay if he sticks around long enough. He has the opportunity to jump Tyler Higbee, who has not been able to stay healthy. And this is a guy that they traded up for to get. So I think Ferguson could be a guy that's just involved in such a good offense that it will be a kind of a weekly starter towards the end of the season. Like, I don't know if it's going to happen early in the season, but this is a guy that may see a lot of field time in 2025. All right, let's move on. Next round. This group, hey, Kyle Pitts. And who I'm talking about right now, who fits in the Kyle Pitts section, It's Kyle Pitts. We all have different views on him. We're waiting for that breakout. I have been a Kyle Pitts believer, and I think I'm going to stick with it. I think Michael Penix getting the starting job is going to amplify the pass catchers on this team. For some reason, it just didn't work out with Kirk Cousins, and it was a shame. But Michael Penix is not much of a scrambler. He's going to stay in that pocket. I think this also bodes well for Drake London. But for Kyle Pitts, I'm still going to be optimistic. And you may laugh at me when I do this again next year and he's still in the Kyle Pitts section. But there's also rumors of him possibly being traded. Maybe a change of scenery will work out this guy, especially if teams want Kyle Pitts. They better want him to incorporate him into their offense, right? So Kyle Pitts is Kyle Pitts. Next section is kind of I don't know. I really don't know. Let's take a look at these guys. Look at these. I mean, let's start at the bottom. Chigakonko, he just has stayed at the same spot, finished as tight end 21 the past 2 seasons, and then the year before that, tight end 25. I just don't know about this guy. He has the ability, but it just has not worked out for him. So these are guys that this group of 4 is, you're looking at me, you probably have your own opinion on them, and it's valid. I will have mine, and it's valid. Like, these are such, you can be on the fence of all these guys. And also with their situations is you could look and see the brighter things, or you can see the darker things. So like I said, Congo just hasn't proved it yet. And you can say, all right, new quarterback in Cam Ward. Like I said, inexperienced rookie quarterbacks rely on their tight end. So, hey, that's a nice spark. But are we just going to give up on this guy now? I think so. Mike Gesicki is the next one. There's just a lot of volume. I mean, we talk about your fantasy first overall pick might be Jamar Chase, and now you want to take their tight end. It's weird to say because he has Joe Burrow, and there was times where Gesicki was dominant. I mean, finished as tight end 13. That is nothing to pass about with Gesicki. But is he really that big time player? No, he really isn't. Going to the right, Dallas Goedert, just kind of been in trade talks. You don't know if he's going to stay with the Eagles, and I think it would benefit him if he does. But he also just really hasn't been that productive because you have had so many guys like on their team with AJ Brown and Saquon and Devonta Smith that need the ball as well. So he's kind of just being pushed out based off the skills and skill players that they have. And then Dalton Schultz, he just has not really fit into this Texans team. I mean, finished as tight end 20. I actually had a lot of hopes for the rookie out of Ohio State, Cade Stover, to, surpass him on the depth chart, but he's still there. And it's just a guy that, like, you may have an opinion on him. You may be optimistic, but for me personally, like, I'm not drafting him this year. I'll probably have 0 stock in him for my fantasy seasons. Next, these are the guys I think it's over. It's dead in the water. One guy I talked about, Tyler Higbee before, Cole Kmet, the other, and then Will Dissly. Let's start with Will Dissly. Just listen, on the Chargers, I love Justin Herbert. He had some good weeks. I'm trying to find where he finished. He had, like I said, some pretty good weeks. I can't even find it. He's not even on this top list. It's just done. Don't even think about it. Maybe a streamline if he gets hot a little bit. Oh, I see. Tight end 24. It's just not for me. Had one top 5 finish. I just don't think it's going to work out for Will Dissly in the future. And then the next guys with Kmet and Higbee, they're just kind of victims to the draft, unfortunately, and age. Like I said, earlier I said Kmet hasn't been fantasy dominant since he was with Justin Fields, and with all of the new weapons coming into the Chicago Bears offense, I think the days of Cole Kmet are over. And then with Higbee as well, I said Ferguson get drafted there. Can't stay healthy these recent years. And, you added Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua is your bright new shiny number 1 wide receiver. I think it's done. And These three are top tight end potential. These are guys that you will be happy not to use that high draft capital on, but they could be they're definitely going to be top 10, I think. And then it's all about if you're hitting, the lottery and they finish top 3, top 5. Start Travis Kelce. I know it's disappointing last year. I think he's going to come back with a vengeance. I will never give up on him. He's still in the same system where he's dominated all these years. He's playing with the best quarterback ever. This duo is going to produce points. So I wouldn't give up on Travis Kelce. Obviously, we're not going to use the same kind of draft capital that we have in the past for him, which may be beneficial to a lot of fantasy owners. Next is David Njoku. Now, this quarterback room may get you scary, but Njoku's kind of just a beast. Anytime he gets the ball, he finished right next to Mike Gesicki. Like, the difference there is Njoku's got that talent, that raw physical talent, can make great catches, can stay up on the field, and he does it with subpar quarterback play, right? Where Gesicki has an elite quarterback throwing him the ball, and he finds open field. He gets those yardage, maybe the red zone, right? Like, that's why these guys finish right next to each other. But for Njoku, it's just pure skill and dominance that if at the end of the season, if he is a top 5 tight end, I would not be surprised. Next is Evan Ingram. This is a guy who broke out onto the scene after leaving the New York Giants. And even with the Giants, he was pretty good. I know he had a lot of drops, but the move to Jacksonville was incredible for him. I mean, he was a top tight end these past years. Unfortunately, dealt a lot of injuries in 2024, but now he gets kind of a restart in Denver with the Broncos, and he's got Sean Payton. He's got Bo Nix, and I'm really excited to see Evan Ingram come back and get back into that top tier tight end type of finish that I know he's capable of. He is a demon, more of a receiver than a blocker, a tight end, and in fantasy, we love that. And these Broncos, I think, are just going to continue to roll with the fire and be a great offensive team. And these are 4 guys that I think, hey, don't forget about, all right? People, you want to look at the top, but don't forget about these guys. First, we've got Cade Otton. Listen, I know this offense is getting a little crowded. We saw Chris Godwin return. There's Mike Evans. Jalen McMillan was phenomenal. They drafted Emeka Egbuka. The backfield is great. Baker Mayfield has become an elite fantasy quarterback, but do not forget about Cade Otton. When Chris Godwin went down, and there were some other pieces, I think Mike Evans missed a few weeks. Cade Otton was like the number 1 target, and he was a beast. I love Cade Otton. He was a guy that I picked up, won me a few weeks. He had a top tight end finish, top 1 finish last year as tight end 14. Like, he is that good. He can be a top weekly starter for you in 2025. Next is Pat Freiermuth for the Steelers. I know I mentioned that possibly Jonnu Smith may be traded over here, and then this will just, mess up everything that I'm doing. But Pat Freiermuth, when healthy, he's legit. He finished last year as tight end 9, and I feel like no one talks about that. Now, this QB room may be rough with Mason Rudolph or possibly Will Howard. Who knows? Aaron Rodgers, I don't know. But Freiermuth is a consistent player when on the field. He will produce numbers for you on a weekend basis, especially if you emphasize, superstars on the running back position, the wide receiver position. Freiermuth is a great tight end option for this year. Next is Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry is a guy that has been under the radar for years. Finished as tight end 11. A lot of people are very excited because now you get a full year of Drake May with Hunter Henry. And really, the misses he makes, the broken tackles, if you will, he makes incredible plays. Like, no one talks about this guy enough because I think he's just been on bad teams on the wrong time. Like, he was with the Chargers when they were kind of going through that shakiness. He's been with the Pats when they got bad, right? So I think this is going to be a time where you should not forget about Hunter Henry and consider him as your tight end option come 2025. And then next is Jake Ferguson. The Cowboys were in a disarray last year. As soon as Dak Prescott went down, everyone kind of panicked and didn't want any part of the Cowboys. Ferguson dealt with some injuries. I feel like 1 week when he got hit pretty hard and he just people thought he was done for the season. Then he came back. He's a tough guy. I think he's a guy that a lot of people took as a sleeper last year, disappointed. Listen, I would try it again. I think this Cowboys offense is going to click. I don't know as a team as a whole, but with Dak Prescott being back, Jake Ferguson may have a great tight end year for all fantasy owners that want to take a flyer on him. And then I believe this is the last one. This is a youth takeover, plain and simple. Zach Ertz, Mark Andrews. We saw how Mark Andrews' season ended last year. Devastating, hurt. People thought he was dead for fantasy. Everyone was dropping him in the first few weeks, and then he came back alive. Zach Ertz, no one saw coming. He finished as tight end 8. Mark Andrews, tight end 6. But I think this is it. I think there's guys behind them that are ready to take over for the future. And I think we've seen it a lot, especially with the Ravens. Listen, it's time. Isaiah Likely is your new tight end 1 on the Ravens. I think he's a guy that is going to jump into that top tier. He can be a guy that wins you leagues this year. And I'm going to be very curious. I think this is a guy that a lot of people are going to draft later in rounds for that hope of, hey, he may be the new guy, and we're going to take him to the promised land and win a fantasy championship. And then next, if you're not familiar, this is Ben Sinnott. I thought Ben Sinnott was going to be a breakout star, but then Zach Ertz kind of jumped right in front of him for the Commanders. He is super talented, but he has that veteran in front of him. Zach Ertz is not getting younger. Zach Ertz, it's going to be tough to see after a long season how he can develop with Jaden Daniels. I think that Commanders should be focusing a lot on Sinnott and making him the primary tight end option as we go to, the 2025 season, as they make pushes for another NFC championship appearance or possibly a Super Bowl, especially with Jaden Daniels as your quarterback. Let's get some youth in there, build some chemistry with younger guys, because, we don't know that at the end of this season, Zach Ertz may just hang it up, and now you need some tight end with experience. And I believe that's it. All right. So those are my tight end tiers. What did you think about them? Where would you place them? What do you think about Kyle Pitts? I appreciate your time. Make sure to follow us all here on Blitz Sports Media. I'm the Dean of Fantasy Football. And until next time, I'll catch you later.